Welcome to Verify in Field, the Millwork Podcast. Your host, Jacob Edmond, CEO of Ductworks, will be interviewing experts in the industry to bring you insights and knowledge about the latest trends, techniques, and challenges in millwork. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and join us as we explore the world of millwork. Here's Jacob.
Hey, Myron. Thanks for joining us today. Today, guys, we have Myron Wittmer, and he's a cabinet industry consultant and tech advocate, and somebody that I've been following. He's got a great newsletter that he puts out every Friday. Myron, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. I am honored to be here because I have been following you as well, and appreciate the work you're doing with sharing education in the industry, and especially last week's or the most recent episode with Dominic on the business side of things. That's something that's really close to me. And yeah, just thank you for the work you're doing in the industry, Jacob.
I appreciate it. Well, to get started, I think it'd be great if you can give a little bit about your background and how you came to working, what you're doing now, and your experience in high-end residential cabinetry.
Sure. So, short background, probably like a lot of people in the woodworking industry. Right out of high school, I started at a small cabinet shop. I actually was helping my two uncles. So we just had a 3-man shop, and basically that's where I got a lot of my hands-on experience. I was building drawer boxes, doing finishing, spending some time in the office, and yeah, just much more small scale and just more hands-on. And toward the end of that, I got into using KCD and setting up pricing and working with dealers. And ultimately, they closed shop because they got tired of the rat race. And so that kind of was my first introduction to just a passion for helping cabinet makers, because I see a lot of people in that same burned out phase and just getting tired of all the things that are typically associated, and you can just get overran. But from there, I moved into a high-end residential cabinet shop, very custom, like everybody. But this one was very custom. And every job was reinventing the wheel, constructing things differently. And so when I was hired on there, they was using KCD software as well. And during my time, the whole reason I was hired is they wanted to invest in cabinet vision and ultimately get a CNC, which I'm so grateful and appreciative of them, because I didn't have cabinet vision knowledge at that point, but they saw something in me and chose to invest in me as an employee there. And so they gave me the opportunity and the time while I was working there to just throw myself into cabinet vision and learn. And so I was crawling all over the cabinet vision forum, trying to get things set up. And then ultimately, over the course of a couple months, we was able to get up and running, get a CNC, and everything went smoothly. And again, I attribute that to their willingness to dedicate time to helping me learn. And yeah, that was a incredible experience. And so that's really where I first started getting a hold of cabinet vision, because working there, it was not just a average shop. They wanted to have everything in cabinet vision exactly like it was. So we were constructing things perfectly. The textures were perfect. Everything needed to be right in cabinet vision for them, because we was doing customer presentations and nice drawings. And so I could spend a week on one presentation package. So that helped me go deep with cabinet vision. And so that was really where I started gaining experience. And then from there, people started, asking, hey, can you come help me? We was one of the first shops right in our local community that had cabinet vision. So I started helping people on the side, just Saturdays or after work. I would go over and help people get started. And so after a couple of years there, I was approached with an interesting offer with Cabentry. And this was a tough decision because I loved my job where I was, but ultimately, and we'll talk about more, but I'm such an advocate for learning and putting yourself in positions where you can continue to become better and to continue to learn new skills. And so I accepted the role at Cabentry, and basically Cabentry is a pricing and order management software for dealers, for shops with dealers. And that experience was very helpful to me, learning more on the business and marketing side, also getting to go hands-on with a lot of shops and just helping them kind of understand their pricing models gave me a lot of experience that helps me today for sure. And so while I was at Cabentry, I was also doing a lot of cabinet vision consulting. Several hours a week, I would have remote and on-site meetings helping them with cabinet vision while I was at Cabentry. And then, as of this March, I took the leap and started Cabinet Explore, very much with a focus on education and training and content creation, because with all the experiences I've had over the years, it's led me to want to put content in people's hands so they're better educated and better able to make decisions for their business. And ultimately just to take away a little bit of that overwhelmed feeling by helping them get a hold of their software. So that's where I'm at. I'm a cabinet vision consultant, content creator, and trainer of sorts.
Awesome. So that's a great recap and kind of summary of where you're at. So you said March of this year you started, and Cabinet Explorer, just to clarify, so you have a YouTube channel, right? You have a website. So is the name of your YouTube channel Cabinet Explorer?
No, and I'm teetering between personal brand and professional brand, navigating that world. But Cabinet Explorer is the business, the consulting side of things, but I'm still operating under a personal brand of sorts.
Yeah. So you have a YouTube channel, Myron Wittmer, and then you have Cabinet Explorer as the business. And then you have a newsletter, which is the Tech Forward Cabinet Maker, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So your newsletter comes out every Friday. I get that in my inbox. And it looked like, though, you actually started making videos on your YouTube channel before March, right? Before going solo. Is that right?
Yeah. Because if you would have known me several years ago, I was a super shy guy and would not ever publish any opinion. But recently I started, as I was absorbing content from other people, I was like, you know what? I've learned skills over the years that I've been working. And even if I can just help somebody just where I was at a year ago. And so I got over that hump and started making videos and saw the opportunity that presented by being willing to share and educate people. And so the YouTube journey started while I was working at Cab Entry, and ultimately I was so busy and I didn't dedicate enough time. But then leading into the newsletter, wasn't sure if I would like writing, but I started writing, and now it's a highlight of my week to sit down and write an article of what's been on my mind or the conversations I've been having.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's very similar to, I feel, my journey. I started a blog many years ago, and it was just as I had ideas. And now we do YouTube videos and still trying to figure that out. And it's scary at first, but definitely the response. I remember when I first started using Micro Bellum and was learning it, and I went to school for architecture. And so you use lots of Revit and AutoCAD and software, and it's like you can just Google and there's tons of resources. So I remember getting into Millwork and there's this software Micro Bellum, and trying to just Google YouTube videos. And this was 10, 12 years ago, maybe. Yeah. But feeling like, I was at a company, we weren't on active support, so I didn't have access to Micro Bellum's resources at that point. And so I'll being like, why are there not more resources? And so that's always stuck with me to want to create that. And so it's great to see somebody else like you putting content out there about Cabinet Vision. I've seen you have videos about Mosaic, and now your newsletter just about general software and ideas behind helping cabinet makers is extremely valuable. So you said you've had good response to that. And from that, I assume that spurred you to make the leap to full-time consulting and content creation. Exactly. What was that journey like? Was there a significant turning point or milestone that you felt like, hey, I can make this jump?
Yeah, that's a good question. It certainly wasn't an easy decision, but it was a calculated decision, because at all the jobs I've worked at, and I haven't worked anywhere long, I'm a typical young guy in a career, but the thing that I found whenever I started getting ready to move on, what happened was I had the peak of where I could go at that job. And at the residential job, once we got Cabinet Vision, once we did all the fun stuff of setting, I was ready to move on and help somebody else set up. And at Cab Entry, it was the same thing. Incredibly fun, incredibly valuable right at first, but then it felt like I was just doing the ongoing and I wasn't really advancing. And so for me, more than anything, it was to put myself in a position to be able to continue to learn new things. And I saw this as that best way forward to continue to evolve in my own skill set.
Nice. So now that you've made that jump, so we talked about, you've got YouTube video, you've got consulting services. What is the services you provide daily today look like? What does Myron Wittmer's ongoing journey as a consultant look like today?
Yeah. So right when I quit, I was trying to do a lot of things because I identify as a jack of all trades. I was building websites. I was helping people with just general software. I was helping cabinet shops a lot. I was doing a lot of different things. And part of that continued even going right into starting my own business in March. But very shortly into that, a mentor gave me the advice that you need to define who your customer is. You can't serve everybody. And that was super valuable. And really in April or early June is when I made the decision to dedicate fully to the cabinet industry. And that's where things really started taking off, is when I made that commitment to, I'm going to be serving the cabinet industry, specifically, guys who do kitchen and bath cabinets. They can go a little beyond that with closets and everything. But my day-to-day type of work is hourly consulting on Cabinet Vision. That can be on site or through TeamViewer. And so basically a shop will reach out and, sometimes they'll come to me with a list of questions. Hey, we want to do this and this, make it happen in the software. And that's really how I started out, because I didn't feel like I had a lot to add other than just executing on what they wanted. But as time went on and I talked to more and more shops, it also become a little bit of a advising and a little bit of manufacturing advice as well. Because now I can go into a shop and say, yeah, I can help you do that in Cabinet Vision. Also, a lot of guys are doing it this way. Have you considered, here's some of the pros and cons. Don't have to do it that way. But there's more experience behind it as well. So it's not just, what do you want me to do? I'll do it for you in Cabinet Vision. So also getting into that advising row. And then the other thing that I've just started getting into, which I'm really excited about, is more of a classroom type training.
Mm-hmm.
I did one here just in the last week. Just went on site and sat down in a classroom of 6 people and spent 2 days, getting them up to speed on kind of the basics of Cabinet Vision. And so I'm hoping that I can do more of that. I'm trying to get a place set up here locally that people can come in and do that type of on-site training, because it's, I love TeamViewer, I love working remotely, but there's still a lot of value in connecting face to face. And I think that's going to be a really exciting opportunity. And then along with the consulting and that way classroom style training, I'm also making steps to build an online course for Cabinet Vision. And Cabinet Vision as a company has quite a few resources. Their forum is excellent, like their customer forum. And they have a few videos, and they actually sell like a training package. And it can be valuable. But I think there's definitely room for kind of a new perspective on, hey, I just bought Cabinet Vision. What do I do next to begin mastering it? And so I've been trying to dedicate time each week to build that, and I'm hoping to have it finished here in a couple months as a way of, here's an online course that you can give to your employee, or you yourself as the business owner, take this course and you're going to be on your way to mastering Cabinet Vision.
Nice. Awesome.
So that's the 3-phase approach that I'm taking right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. The online course that you're looking at building, I think I saw something about that on your website. What does that process look like? Are you creating pre-recorded kind of outlines and scopes for it ahead of time? Are you modeling it after anything that you've seen out there?
Yeah, that's a good question. One thing that, as I've helped a lot of different shops over the last several years, I take people through a very similar process. From the time we start until we get to just the more specific questions, I like to take people through a very set procedure. And it's not, all of my consulting is based on teaching. Yes, I'm going to execute a few of the things, but it's very much like, I want access to an employee or someone at your shop that I can invest in and get them up and running, because I don't want to always be doing hourly consulting at a shop. What I want to do is do a lot up front so that they're able to take it and run and be that guy in their shop. Mm-hmm. That's my goal with all of my consulting. And so over the years, I have this model that I like to go through to help that guy quickly be like, oh, okay, so here's how Cabinet Vision operates. Mm-hmm. And so seeing how that has worked with all the people that I've helped, now I want to package that into an online course. So now it's not one-to-one, but I can help a lot of people in a shorter amount of time.
Awesome. That's exciting. I think we definitely need something like that. And so is there any kind of common low-hanging fruit or things that you see most shops you work with struggle with early on?
That's a good one. I think one that anybody who I've worked with will know this to be true, but one of the most important things that I do when I work with somebody is keep a very clean library. A lot of people are afraid to delete things, or over time they get this massive set of material schedules and construction methods. And so the thing that is most important to me, when I start with somebody, is I like to start with a very clean thing. I only want to see things that we added. And it makes the learning process so much easier if you're not looking at a bunch of things that just came with the system. And so them being a part of everything, whether it's materials, types of parts, material schedules, construction methods, if they're a part of adding every one of those things and we started from scratch, it makes their learning process so much easier. Rather than what happens a lot of times is people just jump in and start using some of the stock materials. They don't really know where things are coming from. And they just continue to copy and add stuff. And so when they hit a drop down, they got 200 items. And that's, in my opinion, that's a big hindrance of really setting people up for success. It makes training new hires a lot harder. It makes just operating it on a day-to-day basis and maintaining it much harder. So that's the first low-hanging fruit that I can think of.
Right. Okay. And you said that you've come up with a process that you take in your one-on-one consulting, you've taken people through, and that's kind of the basis of what you're doing. What is that? How did developing that process come about? Was it just a natural evolution as you work with each client, you refined and improved, and now you had a little bit of a blueprint?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think referencing back to when I started at that high-end custom cabinet shop, I was thrown into Cabinet Vision and expected to have it running in a few months. And when I go back and look at, which since then I've helped redo some things, but when I was first learning, I was just throwing things out there, and I was everything I would find on the forum, I would just install the package and just add it on to what I had. And so I think that's where kind of my recognition of the importance of having a kind of a clean install comes from, is because as I was learning and didn't really know what I was doing, I was just adding all these things up, and it made things kind of conflict with each other, and it was not a very smooth working system. But I remember when I was learning, there was several days I would come out on break and they would laugh at me. They said my brain is smoking. But I just remember I didn't feel like I had a lot of resources to look at. And like when I sat down, I didn't know whether to start adding materials first. I didn't know whether to start in construction. Like I didn't know where to start. And so it felt like I was just choppy. I'm going to do this a while, and then the next day I would do this. As I started helping people, that was just the guidance of I would do this first, then do this. That would have been invaluable to me when I was learning, because it just complicated my whole process, which that's really the importance of like just understanding what steps logically to get you up and running as soon as possible is really where that method started developing, and seeing how people responded to the way that I was training them helped me hone and better that process.
Awesome. I've found that, through my journey, that as there was a lack of resources, I was similar to, it sounds like your experience with Cabinet Vision. I was working with Micro Bellum and building libraries for the different data and teaching people and stuff. But I found myself constantly looking for other resources to learn from. And I ended up constantly looking outside of Millwork at technology and software development and things like that, and trying to glean resources where I could. What Micro Bellum has an Excel backend, so I was constantly on Stack Overflow looking at Excel forums, trying to find things, and always like, hey, I wonder how I can get enough. Even then, I remember being on Stack Overflow and be like, I need to get enough of a reputation or ranking on Stack Overflow that I can create a Micro Bellum Substack or whatever, right? But were there things like that you found yourself looking outside of our industry as like examples of things to glean from, or how to structure what you're doing, or how to structure your teaching or whatever?
That's a good question. I think definitely, and I can definitely relate to looking other places, because it takes a problem solving mindset, and even now, like I know a lot more than I did when I started with Cabinet Vision, but there's still situations I get into every day where I'm going to have to research that. But as far as outside sources, like I said, I'm a jack of all trades and I love software. I've tried every CRM and every little no-code solution out there. But I don't know that there was really anything that comes to mind that helped me exclusively in Cabinet Vision, because Cabinet Vision doesn't really have too much of a base outside. Pretty much everything is inside of Cabinet Vision. So I can't think of anything that comes to mind there.
And so another thing that you have now is your weekly newsletter. And you mentioned that you've discovered now this is something you really just enjoy sitting down weekly and writing. When did that start? How did it start? And has that evolved since you started it?
Yeah. So I've been doing it since January of this year. And it was right at the time when I was ending my time at Cab Entry. And I hadn't announced I was quitting yet, but I was making steps in moving that direction. And so one thing that has been really big for me the last year is value-based marketing rather than just buy our services marketing.
Right.
And so I knew that going into my own business, I didn't want to be broadcasting, hey, I can come to your shop and do this and this for you. I wanted to do more value-based marketing. So you can absorb some of my content or read it over, or watch videos on YouTube. And then when you're ready, come to me and let's see how I can help you. And so I had my YouTube channel and I was trying to think of ways that I could continue to build on that and give more resources for people to, first of all, yes, it's part of my marketing strategy, but also it's part of connecting with people. Because I was looking at just through Cab Entry, I met a lot of shops, and just being able to connect with them, you get to know them and you can build trust there. But the newsletter came as a way of interacting and being able to connect with more people. You know, YouTube is great. I love YouTube. But the newsletter felt like a step even more personal. And as a way of making that touch and getting to connect with people. And yeah, so that was the passion for it. I wanted it partially as a marketing, partially as a tool to connect. And right when I started, it took me so long to write the first one. And I wrote and rewrote and had the hardest time. And finally, I just picked a topic that I'm really passionate about, also doing a lot of websites and marketing stuff as well. I just picked a topic that was really easy for me to talk about, and why you need to Google my business page for your cabinet shop. And once I wrote the first one, and I got a couple of subscribers, things became so much easier. Mm-hmm. And like I said, a lot of it, I have a little list where I jot down ideas, and a lot of times it's simply the articles come from, I was talking to a guy this week about, or maybe it's a book I'm reading, or maybe it's a YouTube video I watched. It's just things that I'm learning or things that are interesting to me, and I'm trying to tailor it toward the woodworking industry.
Awesome. Yeah. And there's a lot of valuable content. So for example, I know I've gotten newsletters where you talk about marketing and websites. You talk about specifics of software. What are some of the other things you've shared for people that might be curious about subscribing?
Yeah. So I very much have a software-based approach. And the machinery guys or the hardware guys are really going to cringe when I say this, but I think software is becoming more and more the critical role in a shop. The industry has been so blessed with the advancement in machinery, automated machinery, CNC, like that has evolved tremendously in the last several years. And I think as that continues, your basis of having a good manufacturing software and a good structure and being able to master it, not just having one, is going to be more and more important. And so I've wrote several articles just from that perspective, mastering your software so that you're able to utilize those new automated machineries. Another article that comes to mind, I wrote about and we got a lot of feedback on as well, is should I outsource? Because a lot of shops I go into, they're building their drawer boxes, they're making their doors, they have their own finish room, and like they think they're losing revenue by outsourcing. And so for me, there's times for that. As you continue to scale, you can cut down on lead time. There's benefits to doing everything in-house. But for a lot of the small guys, it can make a lot of sense to outsource. And some people are a little bit prideful about that. I know I got some opinions when I wrote that article, but just things like that. Like I want to write articles that some of them may not relate, but some of them may challenge the way you think, to just take another look at how you're doing things and be able to say, maybe we should consider that. Let's look at our numbers. Let's look if that makes sense. And so if nothing else, I just want to make it a challenge to how you're operating today.
Yeah. I think that's good, because I think there needs to be a lot more controversial conversations in our industry. And because I'll say this, I've said it on a lot of podcasts, I think we're very egocentric, and there's a lot of woodworkers are very, hey, we're a craft and we have to do things our way. And a lot of companies see themselves as, they'll market themselves as, oh, we have 30 years of experience and we make the best quality and stuff. And every company can say all those same. And the reality is, for your customer, they don't care. They frankly don't. 90% of our customers, it's GCs or homeowners, and they're literally comparing you to 12 other shops, and they're going to pick one. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's schedule and price. And there's a baseline quality. Now those are the types of things I look at every other manufacturing industry and every other things. And I know a lot of people say, oh, you're watering us down to manufacturing, all that stuff. But the reality is that is what we are. And there is a place for high level craft, and there is a place for all that stuff, right? But at the end of the day, you have to be able to run a business, and there's things that we should be able to learn from everybody else outside of woodworking. And those are the types of things of like component outsourcing. And hey, there is validity to like a shop that all they do all day, every day is make drawer boxes. And they've figured out how to do that really well, high quality and efficient and cost effective. Right. And so to think I'm going to do 12 drawer boxes a month somehow more effectively and cheaper, like maybe you can do the higher quality, but you're not going to make money at it. And we have to be able to have those uncomfortable conversations. And and I appreciate having somebody else out here sparking those things.
And that reminded me that as you were talking that reminded me of another article I wrote called Who is Your Customer? You talked a little bit about how we just hang on to the branding items of years in business, custom, and like all those little keywords that everybody claims. And in that article, it's very similar to what I shared in my own background. Right when I quit, I was trying to help everybody do everything. Like, hey, I'm a tech guy. I just solve problems. And I saw myself how that really didn't scale or work very well. And I see the same mindset in a lot of shops. Like, they'll look across the street and say, hey, this guy's offering closets now and he seems to be doing well. Let's offer closets. And then it'll take into account that when you add another line or do some major division, it can retract from, you can't give the same effort to both lines. So there's a time to add a line and a new way of doing things. But the big thing that I was trying to get across in that article is some shops I don't think everybody thinks about who you're actually serving. They want to build cabinets for everybody. When you can go into a market and say, hey, we make high-end custom homes and this is who we're serving and we're going to serve you at that level. Rather than trying to please everybody with price, talk about who you're trying to serve and build your product around those type of people. I think when you do that, the branding and marketing just becomes a much easier game when you actually define who your customer is. And I think a lot of shops just chase that around like, well, we're not making money, let's do closets. Or we're not making money, let's go to the dealer market. It looks greener over there. Or if you're in dealers, let's go to the residential market or the commercial market. And so just figuring out who your customer is and having that decision and sticking to it and focus on serving. Like I said, I had that same journey and I had to determine that I'm not necessarily going to ignore, but I'm going to put my attention toward cabinet makers and I'm going to build all my services around serving them. And it makes me more valuable to that small segment of people.
Yeah. I just did the last podcast before this. I talked to him and he works with contractors on going through Donald Miller's brand script and the story brand idea, right? And the idea there is very much about, okay, you're from a marketing perspective, like most companies, and this is much how woodworkers are, is we talk to our customers. We talk at our customers about what we think about ourselves, about why we're so great. But it's not what problem are we solving for our customers and how are we joining them on their journey to a problem they're trying to solve. And so on the residential side, maybe you're working with a homeowner and all they're trying to do is, hey, I want to renovate my kitchen and I need you to come on this journey with me of building a home that is my vision of what my kitchen should look like or whatever it might be. And the woodworkers and the millworkers, the cabinet makers are saying, well, hey, I'm going to give you the best price, the best quality on sketch. And they don't care about that. What they care is that they're going to recognize this vision. So how are you making them the hero of their own story?
I was getting ready to say hero of the story.
Yeah. How are we operating as the guide? And the other thing that I feel woodworkers struggle with is definitely on the commercial side where we're working with GCs and architects is we don't see ourselves as the guides. We don't see ourselves as the experts, the guys that are coming along and saying, hey, we are going to guide you towards the best solution because we have the knowledge. But at the same time, like our purpose is to help our customer on their journey, solve their problems. So we have to figure out how do we speak to their problems and how our services are actually getting them where they're trying to go.
Yeah.
And so I think that is a huge gap and we lose track of that. And so that's where the ego comes in my mind. And I'm going to offend a lot of people saying this, but it's that we think of it like, oh, what we do, like musicians are this way, artists are this way, and architects can be this way, of the stereotype of what we make has inherent value in and of itself. To your customers, it's not artwork. Yeah. It is something that is trying to be a purpose-driven product.
Yeah, that's excellent perspective. I would agree. I would agree 100% because to someone looking in from the outside, we're just building boxes. So how can you differentiate it and become the guide or the hero in the story? Look, I read that book in January of this year, and that was amazing book. Perfect timing for me.
Yeah.
I'm glad you referenced that.
Yeah. So diving a little bit more into now talking about your experience with Cabinet Vision and the companies that use it. A lot of times, I assume you mentioned you work mostly on residential. So in the millwork industry, right, we've got certain software for design and engineering, CAD, CAM. We've got Cabinet Vision, there's Micro Bellum. Now there's like Mosaic, KCD, there's Homega IX, used to be WoodCAD, CAM.
Yep.
Can you talk a little about from your perspective, like how Cabinet Vision, and they each kind of have a little bit of their niche, the things that they solve. They obviously all can be used and serve everybody's purpose. But from your perspective, what is the niche for Cabinet Vision and the strengths and benefits of it for the type of companies that use it?
Yes, that's a great question. And I know that I've actually made a few videos comparing Cabinet Vision and Mosaic. And just right up front, I'll say, I certainly don't believe Cabinet Vision is the right solution for everybody. And what I consider most important is that whatever software you're using, you focus on mastering it. So Micro Bellum, Cabinet Vision, Mosaic, KCD, whatever it is, get something that's good enough to help you scale, but then focus on mastering it, because either of them, any of them can work for you. Now, where I think the niche, because people call me all the time and ask, hey, I'm thinking about changing my software. Should I get Mosaic or Cabinet Vision? I don't hear a lot about Micro Bellum. Honestly, I don't have a lot of experience with Micro Bellum. But Cabinet Vision and Mosaic comes up all the time. Like, what should I do? Which one's better? Which is an impossible question. And for me, personally, Cabinet Vision is better. But I still find myself telling people to get Mosaic. And for me, I think the difference is it's really not necessarily based on the size of your shop, but a lot of times it does go hand in hand. But I think for me, what makes the biggest difference when I'm recommending something is, do I see a shop that values time investment and training? Because if it's a shop that, hey, I need something that works, I just want to be able to plug it in and cut parts on my machine, Mosaic works great. They very much took Cabinet Vision and optimized it to be easy for the average guy to go in and have it set up in a little bit of time. And you can do a lot of things with Mosaic, but there's a little bit more of a cap compared to Cabinet Vision. And so the difference for me is, does somebody want a quick solution that's easy to use? And yes, does 95% of what you need to do, maybe even more? Or do you want to invest in Cabinet Vision, but keep in mind, you're going to have to, there's a bigger learning curve, there's more that goes into it, but you can continue to build on this for years to come. And so that's the most important thing I look at. It's not necessarily, it's a little bit what you're building, it's a little bit the size of your shop, but most important is how much do they value investing time in something. If I get the sense that they're in a rush or they just want something that works, go with something simpler than Cabinet Vision.
Yeah. So my understanding, because I've not personally used either very much, but we have a lot of clients. I've talked to a lot of people who use both. Mosaic was created and written by the guy who originally made Cabinet Vision. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And so there are a lot of similarity just from a new user standpoint. If you come in and you get a demo of both, the interfaces, the way they work are going to be pretty similar, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think Mosaic is probably geared toward one, it is more truly a SaaS software now, like a subscription-based software.
Yep.
I've seen there are some really great active Facebook groups of users for Mosaic.
Yep.
It is more like a modern software, CAD software from a user standpoint for the cabinet industry. Like it's a level and step above a SketchUp or something that is specific for cabinets, right?
Absolutely.
It has the ability to do more complexity, but it also is not going to be able to, like, there are things Cabinet Vision can do with more work and more customization we can't. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Because Mosaic is more like parameter driven. Mosaic's going to ask you a bunch of questions about how you want to do things. And they do a really good job of that because a lot of it has just nice little dialog boxes that you can type in what you want to do. You can change a few parameters and you can get what you want. Mosaic also has custom parameters that you can go outside of the normal way of doing things. And guys like Nick Frost and a couple guys there are really taking that to the next level and helping Mosaic guys get what they need. I think the biggest thing that sets Cabinet Vision apart Because, yeah, you're right. Drawing-wise, putting cabinets on the wall, customizing the cabinets, very similar interface. If you use Cabinet Vision, drawing-wise, you can easily use Mosaic. The biggest difference is on the back end. First of all, in reporting, Mosaic's reporting, pretty terrible. No customization. You can get an export of your parts, but that's about it. So for shops that reporting is important, Cabinet Vision has a lot to offer. Downside is you have to know SQL and be able to customize your own reports. The second thing that I think really sets Cabinet Vision apart, I love the way Cabinet Vision does its construction methods, and then they added the connection manager. Really took it to the next level of, I want to put a blind dado here, I want to do dowels here, and just the construction method alone, along with the connections, crazy, it is really flexible. But the thing that's always made Cabinet Vision better than anything else, in my opinion, is their UCSs, or user created standards. And that's essentially the ability to code in whatever you want. And that's a lot of what I do for shops is UCSs and reporting, because those are the things that are hardest to master. Just construction method wise and drawing in Cabinet Vision, not that much different than Mosaic. And you could sit down and be up and running in a couple of days. But to get into UCSs and custom reporting, which again is a lot of the draw toward Cabinet Vision, that full customization and flexibility and that full reporting experience, but it's a lot to master. And so that's why when I look at shops, I just base how much they're willing to invest based on that, because it's not an easy, I'm going to go Cabinet Vision so I have the best. If you don't invest in it, you're not going to have the best.
Are there things that you look at from a shop? So say a company they don't have either solution today and they're considering what to invest in, and obviously they're taking a leap from, maybe they're just using CAD and AlphaCam or CAD and NRoute or something simple like that, right? To program a CNC. Are there things that you look at that would lead you to say Cabinet Vision or Mosaic, one or the other? Just from the type of products they manufacture, the type of machinery they have, or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. A very common setup is just a 3-axis CNC router. Some guys, which in my region here in Southern Indiana, most people are not doing dowels, not much of edge boring and case clamps. It's mostly dado or blind dado or qualified tenon, that type of construction. And so most people have a CNC and that's it. And so Mosaic or Cabinet Vision can do that. Now, when you get into edge boring and say an OMO machine or something that you want to do edge boring from your software, and people almost done a great job doing parametric parts. You put a part on and it knows what to do. But here recently, I've been helping a lot of shops with edge boring, and Mosaic doesn't have the capability to do edge boring. So that's a big, if you want to do dowels and edge boring and you want it to be automated from your software, Cabinet Vision is the obvious solution there. If you're doing other simple basic constructions, either one works fine. There's not a big difference. If you're getting into more furniture style cabinetry, I would maybe point you toward Cabinet Vision, but there's really not a lot for guys just doing kitchen and bath cabinets. Mosaic or Cabinet Vision is fine. But back to the edge boring, this has been an interesting development for me that the first I got into it here about a month ago is helping connect Cabinet Vision to their OMO machine. And I had such a blast with that because, like I said, it's pretty rare for me to mess with the dowel and case clamp type of construction. And working with the SCM guys and the OMO guys, a lot of them was just doing parametric parts where it would scan the part and then you had to match your boring to whatever your software was doing. And we were able to integrate it directly. So Cabinet Vision controlled all the dowels and it integrated with the OMO. That was so much fun to work with those guys and make that solution happen. And I told the guy that it was therapeutic, cutting the part on the CNC, putting the label on, taking it over there and running that. You just never get tired of that seamless automation. But yeah, that's really the biggest difference I would see machinery wise is if you're going to get into material handling, edge boring, or more advanced automation, I would say Cabinet Vision or Micro Bellum or a little more advanced one would be better than Mosaic. But simple guys doing kitchen and bath cabinets with just one CNC router, Mosaic works perfectly. Awesome. I don't talk down on Mosaic because it works and I know a lot of guys that use it.
Wrapping up here, there's 2 questions I like to ask every one of my guests. And so the first one, what do you see changing in the cabinetry and millwork industry over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. a little bit before we got on, and I referenced it a little bit earlier in our conversation. And I think that's the biggest thing that I'm going to hit on. And that's the fact that machinery and automation wise has evolved like crazy in the last 10 years. And people have always been more willing to buy a new piece of machinery than invest in software. They'll buy a $100,000 saw, but not spend $20,000 on cabinet vision. And like I mentioned, I think software is becoming more and more critical to have that structure, because you're going to have trouble utilizing that automated equipment. You're going to buy the machinery that's going to sit there. And so I think the big change is there's going to be more and more software driven things, and it's going to be more and more critical for you to master your software.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think it's such an awesome opportunity that you and I have to be able to help shops go to that next level. And I'm so blessed to have the opportunity to be able to help just go to every individual shop. And the thing I love about it is, like you said, there's that pride that we build the best cabinet, but there's so many ways of doing things. And I thought that after a couple of years of doing this, I would see the best way of doing things. But if anything, I've learned that there's so many ways to do things. And I love seeing the creativity and the desire to learn in shops. And so next 5 to 10 years, those shops that are creative, that are willing to learn, that are willing to invest in their team, that are willing to train in getting that core software working efficiently are the ones that are really going to do well in the next 5 to 10 years, because they're going to have more ability to add that material handling automation, to add that automated machinery, because they have the base of whether it's cabinet vision or whatever they're using figured out.
Awesome. No, I agree a lot on the software side. And I think that it's still something that a lot of companies are adopting: ERP software, CRM softwares, MRP, shop-based softwares, and they're recognizing it, but it's still at a high level. There's not a lot of within companies kind of vision or goal of what purpose are they serving. It's more just, hey, we're adopting something because they've shown this is, and that's frankly how the machinery industry has sold CNCs and stuff, right? Is, hey, if you just adopt our system, everything's going to go great. And yes, at a basic level, but I think it's important for leadership in companies to at least be educated and understand a little bit of, okay, what is the vision you're trying to accomplish with this, and how can you leverage software just like you would a table saw or a CNC? That is a tool that has value, and it allows you to implement a system and a process to better scale your business and control the process and the outcomes.
One other thing on that question to add on, and I saw this extremely true when I was at Cab Entry. Everybody, when I would meet with people and do demos, everybody was asking, what kind of integrations do you have? And so I think the winner of the software game over the next 5 to 10 years is the one who integrates the most, because middleware is so critical. Everybody wants everything to talk to everybody, and nothing truly works together. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how companies like Cabinet Vision, Micro Bellum, Energy, how they continue to solve that middleware solution. And just, people have been talking about design to manufacturing automation for a long time. And in my opinion, it still is not that great. There's companies making great strides in that direction. And that's why I say I'm interested to see where some of those larger players in the field take it.
100%. And I think for those listening that don't understand what that means, if you have, for example, an accounting software, and you've got all this data that is in that accounting software's data system, and then maybe you have an IntelliStore or a WinStore or something, and behind that, there's a separate segregated database that stores all your sheet goods and stuff, right? To have those two databases, those two software talk to each other, so that, for example, your accounting software has updated quantities from what's in your inventory system. That requires, like what you just described, middleware. If those two don't natively integrate with each other, where one or the other has created that way for them to talk, then you have to create something in between. And that exists at almost every company I've been at, where they'll have a homebrew project management software, ERP software, and then they buy a production coach, and then they have this legacy project manager get them to talk to each other. Somebody has to come in and custom code a middleware solution. And outside of the woodworking industry and all software, like, the game is integrations. And so it's, hey, we've created this solution where we do all this work with this information, and we give you the ability to talk to other stuff. That is something that we're definitely, in my mind, lacking. And what most the industry players have tried to do instead is say, hey, we're just going to create our own version of that solution so you can keep your data in our system. And what tends to happen though is a single software maybe creates project management software that's really great, but then they realize people need more than just that. They need accounting, they need inventory. So they create half-baked versions of those that aren't as good as the competition. So you end up constantly having to make trade-offs of, okay, do I want best in class of this and then half-baked solutions so that I can do all that kind of? And I think I would like to see where we just have best in class of everything, and then they can talk to each other.
Yes, that's a great summary of that.
Okay, so the second question I like to ask everybody, which is basically the flip side of the first one, which is, what do you see staying the same in our industry over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think a lot of people I work with, and some of them are even from like Amish or Mennonite backgrounds, and so they're a little reserved when it comes to technology and automation. And some of them think that by getting a CNC machine or by automating something, they're taking away from their craft and their creativity. And one example, I know one, he's from our area, but outstanding woodworker. And he could build anything, whether it was a scooped hood or whatever it was. Amazing how he could put things together. And he was doing table saw, router, just very basic power tools. And they set up AlphaCam in their shop and CNC router and a few automated things. And a couple years down the road, looking at how he took that tool of software and automated machinery, it didn't change the craft and creativity. Mm-hmm. It allowed him to take that and build so much more extraordinary things. And the thing that is not changing as the industry evolves technology-wise and software and all the fancy things that are coming in, there's still that craft and creativity. And you can put that to use and use those type of tools to help you do more of it and to do even more precise and really cool things. And so that's one thing that I see staying the same is your craft is not going away by the solutions you put in place. And the other thing that we've already laughed about already, but I think the pride of we build the best cabinets, and I think that will always be right here in the woodworking community. And it's a good thing. I think it's awesome when a company says we make the best cabinets. And I see the creativity and the craft staying the same. And I see that same prideful mindset going into building boxes that it's probably going to continue.
Yeah. Awesome. If people want to reach out to you to find out more about working with you with Cabinet Vision, your things you're doing, what's the best way for them to find out more information or contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to my website, Cabinet Explorer, and you'll find links to my newsletter, my YouTube channel, and just a way to contact me. So I'd love to connect with you. Feel free to reach out.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes. And I really appreciate you taking time to speak with us. And I hope we can have you on again and we can continue having conversations like this. I'm really excited to see the work you're doing and love to have somebody else like-minded putting content out there for our industry.
Yeah. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity, Jacob.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Do you want to stay up to date about industry insights, new content, and our community of millworkers? Go to ductworksmw.com to sign up for our newsletter. I'll see you in the next episode of Verified in Field.